Okay, for 7.2, we are going to graph the linear equations and inequalities on a number line. So the first thing you're going to do is solve the equation or inequality and then just graph it on a number line. So for this first one here, we have 6y plus 3 is equal to y plus 8. So if we solve, subtract y on both sides, 6y minus y gives us 5y. And then if we subtract 3 on both sides, 8 minus 3 gives us 5. And then divide both sides by 5, we get y equals 1. So to graph that on a number line, here's 0, there's 1, it's an equal to equation, so we're just going to put a dot at 1. So typically you don't graph equations on number lines, most usually it's inequalities. So for 7.16, you have x plus 7 is less than or equal to 12. So solve for x, subtract 7, we get x is less than or equal to 12 minus 7 is 5. So draw your number line. Here's 0 and here's 5. I'll just make a mark and put 5. So if you have an equal to on your inequality, then you use a closed circle, or some people do parentheses and brackets. That's fine too, whichever way you prefer. If you do not have an equal to, you do an open circle, or again, you can use parentheses and brackets if you want to. For an equal to, you would do a bracket. So if you want to put a bracket instead of a closed circle, I'm okay with that. And since it's less than, you shade to the left. So anything less than or equal to 5 works. So like I said, you can choose if you want closed circle or bracket. Makes no difference to me. For 7.18, we have x plus 19 is greater than 2. So solve this, subtract 19 on both sides, 2 minus 19 gives us negative 17, so we have x is greater than negative 17. So draw your number line. And this actually doesn't ask you to write this in interval notation. Some people choose to just because they like to. So you have negative and not negative 8, negative infinity here and infinity here if you want to write it. It only asks you to graph. So if you wanted to say negative infinity, well, I don't know why I keep making 8s, negative infinity to 5 with a bracket, that's fine. Just backing up to the other one for just a second. And like that's why some people prefer to do brackets and parentheses, because then it gives you the interval notation as well. So it's up to you. So anyways, so subtract 19, 2 minus 19 is negative 17. So x is greater than negative 17. So again, here's 0. Negative 17 is down here somewhere. It's strict, which means you need to use an open circle or a parenthesis. And it's greater than, so that means everything to the right. Again, if you want, you can use a parenthesis, which would lead you into interval notation because it would be negative 17 out to infinity if you chose to do parentheses. So some people, that's why I said some people prefer to put the parenthesis instead of the open circle. So, and remember, if you do interval notation, negative infinity, infinity always has a parenthesis. Number 7.22, we have negative 8x minus 6 is greater than or equal to 34. So solve for x, add 6 to both sides. We've got negative 8x is greater than or equal to 34 plus 6 gives us 40. Divide by negative 8. Make sure you remember when you divide by a negative, you flip your inequality. So it actually becomes less than or equal to 40 divided by negative 8 is negative 5. So it's less than or equal to, so you have the equal to, so you're going to do a closed circle or a bracket, and it's less than, so you're going to go to the left. So if you wanted, you could do a bracket. And if you wrote that one in interval notation, it would be negative infinity to negative 5 with a bracket. And of course, you can always check these. You can always pick a number. Like if you plug in 0, 0 shouldn't work. Negative 8 times 0 is 0. Negative 6 is not greater than or equal to negative 34, so that's good. 0 is not shaded. If you plug in like negative 10 will work. So you can always check your answers, make sure they are correct. So for the last one here, we have negative 12 is less than negative 2x minus 2 is less than or equal to negative 8. So solve just like normal. If you're going to add 2, you add 2 here and add 2 here. Make sure you do it all 3 places. So negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10. It cancels out here. And negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. And then you're going to divide everywhere by negative 2. So all 3 places get divided by negative 2. And same thing applies if you divide by a negative. You have to switch, or multiply, but divide by a negative, you have to switch the inequality. So negative 10 divided by negative 2 gives us a positive 5. And turn the inequality. X, turn this inequality. Negative 6 divided by negative 2 gives us a positive 3. And most people prefer that when you're writing a compound inequality like this, most people prefer that they go less than. So if you want to turn it around and say 3 is less than or equal to x is less than 5, that's fine. It's the same statement either way. If you leave it alone, that's fine. But like I said, most people prefer it when it's less thans. So on your number outline, there's 0, there's 3, there's 5. You have 3 is less than or equal to x is less than 5. So at 3, you have an equal to, which means you're going to use a closed circle, or again, a bracket, if you prefer. At 5, it's a strict inequality. It's x is less than 5. So you're going to use an open circle or parenthesis. And we're talking about numbers between 3 and 5, including 3, but not 5. So like 4 will work. So you just shade the line between them. So that is all for graphing the linear equations and inequalities just on a number line. So solve first and then draw your number line and shade, or if it's an equation, put a dot, but otherwise you can shade.